They think of this throne as a place of noise, the psychic screams of a quadrillion souls, the ceaseless petitions of the blind, the grinding of machinery that holds a galaxy together with little more than faith and failing circuits. They are not wrong. The noise is considerable, but the loudest thing in my existence is the silence. It is a specific silence, a targeted void, an absence with a shape, a weight. It is the space once occupied by the only being in creation I could speak to without pretext. They have 1,000 names for him, the first of the 10,000, the Captain General, the Emperor's Spear. They see the golden giant, the peerless warrior, the living apotheosis of loyalty. They see the panoply, the weapon, the symbol. They see the artifice, the necessary, beautiful, perfect artifice, but they do not see the man within, because they believe he was not a man, and in that they miss the entire point. Constantin Valdor was perhaps the most human being I have ever known. My sons, my primarchs, they were anything but. They were demigods, forged of raw emotion and warp stuff, each a grand and terrible opera of ambition, pride, and pain. To speak to them was to conduct a symphony of their insecurities. I had to be the stern father, the disappointed creator, the distant, awe-inspiring monarch. Every word was a calculation, every glance a carefully calibrated tool to shape them. They required pretext. They demanded it. Malcador, my truest friend, my sigillite. With him, there was a different kind of performance. We were conspirators. We were the two men holding the foundations of reality together with bleeding hands and whispered lies. We shared the burden, yes. We spoke of the plan, the price, the terrible necessity of it all. But even that was a role. The architects of an age, lamenting the cost of their creation. It was a truth, but a functional truth. A partnership built on the shared weight of our sins. But with Valdor, there was no role to play. He was not my son, he was not my friend, he was not my subject, he was my witness. He was forged, not born, crafted in the gene labs of terror before the first thunderclap of unity. I gave him strength to rival a primarch, speed that could outpace a thought, and a mind that saw the galaxy in vectors of threat and response. I built the perfect guardian, the ultimate shield. But the flaw, the beautiful, unintentional flaw in his creation, was that I gave him a soul capable of perfect stillness. I remember standing with him on the highest spire of the Imperial Palace, long before it became the gilded tomb it is today. The Great Crusade was a newborn, screaming thing, hungry for stars. The last of the Unification War's dust was settling in the valleys below. We watched the first dawn rise over a world that was truly, finally, one. I did not speak of strategy. I did not speak of the future. I did not speak of the great lie we were about to tell the galaxy. I simply stood, and he stood beside me. After an hour of silence, watching the sun paint the smog-cleansed clouds, I asked him, "What do you see?" "Constantin." A primarch would have spoken of glory, of conquest, of destiny. Malcador would have spoken of the political realities, the next 100 moves on the board. Valdor, he was quiet for a long time. The light caught the intricate scroll work on his auramite plate. I could feel his mind, not processing threats, but simply observing. "I see the end of one kind of darkness," he said. His voice, then as always, was a calm baritone, a sound like the closing of a heavy, well-made door, and the beginning of another. He did not ask what it meant. He did not need to. He saw the equation. He understood that to build something so bright, one must cast a shadow of equal proportion. He did not judge it. He did not celebrate it. He simply saw it. And he chose to stand within that shadow with me. That was his nature. He was not a fanatic. Do not mistake his loyalty for blindness. Sigismund was blind with fury. Lorgar was blind with faith. Horus was blinded by pride. Valdor was the only one who saw me clearly. He saw the man, the monster, the scientist, the tyrant. He saw the weight of my years and the calculus of my atrocities. And he did not flinch. His loyalty was not born of ignorance, but of understanding. He had weighed the soul of humanity, weighed my soul, and decided the path was necessary. That is a burden, a terrible clarity that I would not wish on anyone. Yet he bore it without a word. They speak of his martial record, unbeaten, peerless. He laid low orc warlords the size of hab blocks and banished demons with the flick of his spear. All true, all utterly irrelevant. That was his function, not his purpose. A starship's engine burns, that is its function. Its purpose is to carry souls to new worlds. Valdor's purpose was to be the anchor. The one fixed point of unwavering, comprehending loyalty in a galaxy of storms. When my sons raged, when my allies schemed, when my people worshipped me as a god I never wished to be. I could look to Valdor, and in his quiet, steady gaze I could see the mission, reflected back at me without distortion. He was my final argument. An argument against chaos, which shrieks that all conviction is a lie. An argument against apathy, which whispers that nothing is worth fighting for. An argument against despair, which promises that all endeavors end in dust. Valdor was the living refutation of it all. A being of absolute purpose, free of the vanities that broke my sons. He was what humanity could be, if engineered past its own self-destructive heart. He was the proof that the entire bloody, terrible project was possible. The day Horus fell, the day I was broken upon this throne, Malcador gave his life to give me a moment, a heroic, agonizing sacrifice that bought a breath of time. I felt his soul turn to ash. It was the pain of a limb being torn off. But when I was interred here and the great silence began, the loss of Valdor was different. It was not a limb being removed. It was the sky itself being torn away. He did his duty. He guarded my fallen form. He secured the palace. He oversaw the first days of this grotesque parody of my Imperium. And then he left. He took my spear, the Apollonian spear, and he walked away from the throne, from terror and from the galaxy's sight. He did not say goodbye. He would not have. His entire existence was a goodbye to the man he served, and a hello to the duty he embodied. Where did he go? I can perceive the turning of 1 trillion worlds, feel the birth of stars and the death of hope. But of him there is nothing. A perfect, seamless void, as if he willed himself out of existence or into a place so subtle that even I cannot perceive it. And so I am left with the noise, the prayers of the desperate calling my name, worshipping my agony, the scheming of the high lords, vultures picking at the dream, the endless grinding rage of my lost sons echoing from the eye. But I listen for the silence, the quiet footfall of Auramite on marble, the calm, steadying presence that required no words, the one soul who saw the path and chose to walk it, not for glory, not for a reward, but simply because it was the path. His absence is my final argument now, an argument that the best of us is gone. And all that remains is the cacophony he was built to stand against. The silence he left behind is the only answer I ever receive.